Very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1 live and direct from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. Bringing you the news, I'm Jadabdin.
And I'm Shalini Ratnavira. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Former Sri Lankan Airline CEO Kapila Chandrasena arrested over Airbus deal. Former RMV Deputy Commissioner and 3 others remanded. Did Ajit Nivad Cabral pay the 1.84 billion rupee fine in the Greek bond case? Bribery Commission inquires from the central bank. Vessel impounded for transporting weapons and narcotics reaches Dikkovita Fisheries Harbour. 4 more fuel tankers to arrive this month. US President predicts unimaginable drop in crude oil prices. President Dissanayake meets with representatives of electricity trade unions.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Ask for Eslon Polycon by name.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Ask for Eslon Polycon by name.
And on to those stories in detail now. In your top story this evening, the conflict in the Middle East has now been ongoing for nearly 2 weeks, exactly 13 days. What impact has this had on global oil prices and supply? What has happened to global gas prices and supply as a result? Will this situation affect Sri Lanka's oil and gas supply? And what is the real status at this moment?
For the first time since July 2022, the price of a barrel of crude oil crossed the $100 mark just day before yesterday. At its highest point, it reached $119 per barrel. However, when global trading opened yesterday, the oil prices fell once again, and Brent crude dropped by 8.5%, settling at $92.5. In the United States, the West Texas Intermediate or WTI crude fell by around 9%, closing at $88.6. But when global trading resumed this morning, oil prices climbed up once again.
As of today, Brent crude has once again reached the $100 range. WTI crude recorded a 9% increase this morning, rising to $95.27. Foreign reports state that fears about supply disruptions are causing extreme volatility in the global market. The trigger for this volatility has been a series of attacks targeting fuel refineries and oil transport vessels. This morning, it was reported that 2 oil transport ships were attacked in waters near Iraq, resulting in the death of 1 person. Both vessels suffered explosions and fires. Iraqi security forces reported recovering a body in the surrounding waters, while search operations have been launched for missing crew members. Due to the situation, all oil terminals in Iraq have now been closed. Meanwhile, drone attacks on several fuel tanks at the port of Salalah in Oman caused a major fire. Yesterday, 2 Thai and Japanese cargo vessels operating near the Gulf region were also attacked. Foreign media further reported that another vessel came under attack in waters near the United Arab Emirates. Amid continuous attacks attributed to Iran, the UAE's largest oil refinery, the Andok refinery, decided to temporarily halt operations due to safety concerns. At the same time, oil transport through the Strait of Hormuz has been severely restricted. Due to export difficulties, some countries in the Persian Gulf has decided to temporarily limit their oil production. In an attempt to stabilize the volatile market, the International Energy Agency has proposed releasing 400 million barrels of emergency crude oil into the global market.
Sri Lanka currently maintains fuel reserves that ensure uninterrupted supply. Now, if you speak about different types of fuel, petrol reserves, Sri Lanka has petrol reserves sufficient for 40 days. diesel reserves are sufficient for 33 days and aviation fuel sufficient for 49 days. And authorities have also confirmed that the country can continue without any shortages. But we have one question. Is this actually the case?
4 fuel-carrying vessels, each transporting 35,000 to 40,000 metric tons, are scheduled to arrive in Sri Lanka this month. Ceylon Petroleum Corporation Chairman D.A. Rajakaruna said the vessels will arrive on the 14th and 15th of March, on the 17th and 18th of March, on the 21st and 22nd of March, and on the 29th and 30th of March. The first 3 vessels will carry both petrol and diesel, while the final vessel will contain diesel only. CPC confirmed that fuel orders have already been placed to meet national requirements until the end of April. Rajakaruna added that fuel cargo will be purchased at the prices applicable at the time of unloading. All vessels are arriving from India and Singapore.
So next, we examine the status of LPG in Sri Lanka.
Should we be afraid about a possible gas crisis?
Litro Gas supplies about 80% of the country's gas requirement. The company has confirmed that they have made the necessary arrangements to provide their gas supply continuously without any hindrance.
What are the sources Litro uses to obtain gas amidst a Middle Eastern war?
For this year's gas supply, Litro has signed agreements with Geogas, a Swiss company. Geogas fulfills 80% of its gas production from the United States. Therefore, our gas comes from America. A large gas ship of 38,000 metric tons is traveling from America around the African continent and is scheduled to arrive in the Maldives. From there, gas is transported to Sri Lanka via smaller ships in quantities of 3,900 metric tons each. Therefore, this shipping route does not encounter Hormuz or any Middle Eastern country. Additionally, the 38,000 metric ton shipment required for the entire month of March has already arrived in the Maldives. The next gas shipment will also arrive by the first week of April.
How is gas being supplied this month?
Out of the stock currently held in the Maldives, 11,700 metric tons has already been brought to Sri Lanka. Another 3,900 metric tons arrived today. On the 14th, another 3,900 metric tons will arrive. On the 17th, another 3,900 metric tons will arrive in Sri Lanka. 2,900 metric tons will arrive on the 21st and another 3,900 metric tons will arrive on the 23rd. Shipments carrying 3,900 metric tons each will also arrive on the 25th and the 30th. Therefore, Litro Gas guaranteed that there is no reason for a gas shortage to occur.
Can a crisis arise again because of laughs?
Lavs is also currently releasing gas to the market. Additionally, according to Litro, 150,000 Lavs customers also possess Litro cylinders. Litro is also now providing gas to certain large-scale businesses that previously took gas from Lavs in large tanks instead of cylinders.
Can the price increase further?
Depending on the situation in the world market, price fluctuations can occur. This means that gas price increases happening in the world affect us as well. However, we have a massive advantage. The premium is what largely affects that gas price. The premium includes things like shipping costs and insurance costs. Due to the Middle Eastern war, shipping and insurance costs have increased and the premium has also increased. But this does not affect us. Since we are contracted until 31st of December this year, the Swiss company cannot increase the premium. With the situation in the Middle East, the premium has now gone up to $400. However, we only pay $137. So, while we cannot say we are 100% safe, we are largely secure due to the long-term measures taken by Litro.
Our country has managed this crisis in such a way that many other nations are now facing energy shortages. Even neighboring India, for an example, is experiencing an LPG crisis at this moment as we speak. Now, in several Indian states, long queues have formed outside gas distribution centers, and some restaurants have been forced to limit items on their menus. So let's see what this is about.
India.
BBC News reports that due to gas shortages, many restaurants have been forced to limit their menus, shorten operating hours, and in some cases shut down entirely. In major cities such as Mumbai, Bengaluru and Chennai, BBC notes that 1 in 5 hotels or restaurants has either fully or partially closed as a result of the crisis. However, Indian authorities say that misinformation has caused unnecessary panic, prompting the public to stockpile gas cylinders. India has instructed its refineries to increase domestic gas production by 25%.
Bangladesh.
Amid the prevailing wartime environment and to maintain a stable energy supply, Bangladesh has purchased 3 LNG cargoes from the spot market, scheduled to arrive during the first 2 weeks of April. Due to the ongoing energy shortage, Bangladesh has shut down 4 of its 5 fertilizer factories, introduced fuel rationing for vehicles, and closed universities to conserve fuel used for electricity generation.
Pakistan.
Addressing the nation on Monday night, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif announced several emergency measures. The government has introduced a 4-day work week for public sector employees and ordered schools to close for 2 weeks. Higher education institutions will operate online, and citizens have been advised to limit social gatherings. The maximum number of guests allowed at weddings and receptions has been capped at 200, and such events may serve only one main dish. Additionally, federal and provincial cabinet ministers have decided to forego their salaries and allowances for the next 2 months, while the salaries of federal and provincial MPs will be cut by 25%.
Australia.
The Australian government has decided to relax fuel standards for the next 2 months. Fuel containing higher sulfur levels, which had been banned years ago, has now been temporarily permitted for domestic supply. The relaxation will apply for 60 days.
India is considering requests from several countries, including Sri Lanka and the Maldives, for the supply of diesel. New Delhi says fuel support will depend on India's own energy needs.
As you know, India is a major exporter of refined petroleum products, especially to our neighborhood. We have received a request from the government of Bangladesh for supply of diesel, which is being examined. India's refining capacity, our own requirements and diesel availability will be factored in while taking decisions. In addition, I would also like to say that we have received such requests from several other countries, including Sri Lanka and Maldives, and these are being examined, taking into account our own energy requirements and availability that we have.
Issuing a statement, Foreign Minister Vijay Herat says that there is a positive response from India to Sri Lanka's request. According to the statement, during his visit to India on the 6th of March, Minister Vijay Herat engaged in a special discussion with Indian External Affairs Minister S. Shankar regarding the procurement of necessary fuel stocks for Sri Lanka should the conflict in the Middle East continue. The statement adds that this request was made to minimize the potential impact on the country's energy requirements given the volatile situation in the Middle Eastern region. The statement adds that the Indian government has responded positively to the minister's request and further informed that the necessary next steps and measures are already being taken. Through this, the groundwork is being prepared to maintain a secure and continuous fuel supply for the country in the coming period.
Fitch Ratings says that global growth is to hold steady in 2026 if oil shock fades quickly. This was highlighted in the March 2026 Global Economic Outlook of Fitch Ratings.
Global economic growth is expected to remain broadly stable in 2026, provided the recent spike in oil prices does not persist. Fitch revised up its 2026 average oil price forecast to $70 per barrel from $63. The estimate assumes the Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed for roughly a month before prices ease to the mid-$60 in the second half of 2026. This adjustment has not significantly altered the agency's baseline economic projections. However, in the March 2026 Global Economic Outlook of Fitch Ratings, Fitch warned that a more severe scenario where oil stabilizes at $100 per barrel would deliver a major global supply shock. Under such conditions, world GDP would fall by 0.4% after 4 quarters, while inflation would rise by 1.2 to 1.5 percentage points in both Europe and the US. According to Fitch, the world economy demonstrated notable resilience in 2025 despite a series of geopolitical disruptions and unexpected shifts in US policy. Global growth reached 2.7% last year, close to the long-run average. Assuming the current oil price shock proves temporary, Fitch projects only a slight easing in 2026 to 2.6%, an upward revision from the 2.4% forecast issued in December. The ratings agency noted that a surge in AI-related investment, widening fiscal deficits in both the US and China, and a boost to US household spending driven by equity market gains all helped cushion the impact of higher US tariffs in 2025.
The concept of the Indian Ocean as a zone of peace took center stage in Colombo as Sri Lanka called for renewed commitment to safeguarding one of the world's most vital maritime regions.
Sri Lanka's regional outlook is firmly rooted in the Indian Ocean, shaped by its strategic position along major east-west maritime routes. Recognizing the ocean's importance to global trade and regional stability, Sri Lanka emphasizes the need to safeguard sea lines of communication, protect submarine cables, and upholds the freedom of navigation and overflight in accordance with international law. As a founding member state of the Indian Ocean Rim Association, Sri Lanka firmly believes that the Indian Ocean must remain a zone of peace governed by international law and guided by cooperation. Our commitment to a rules-based maritime order consistent with the principles of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea remains unwavering. Sri Lanka's long-standing dedication to this principle is reflected in its historic leadership in advancing the Indian Ocean Zone of Peace Resolution of 1971, which continues to inform contemporary discussions on regional security. We view it as a shared responsibility of both regional and extra-regional partners to ensure that the Indian Ocean remains secure, economically dynamic, environmentally sustainable, and emerges as an ocean of peace. As a critical space for global commerce, the Indian Ocean must retain its distinct strategic identity while respecting the sovereign rights of its littoral states, even as broader regional frameworks continue to evolve. Effective ocean governance is essential to ensuring the sustainable use, protection, and equitable management of marine resources for present and future generations. At the same time, enhancing maritime domain awareness and search and rescue capabilities among coastal states remain critical for maritime safety, environmental protection, and humanitarian response. Sri Lanka has consistently demonstrated its commitment in this regard by strengthening its national search and rescue capacity and actively responding to vessels and individuals in distress at the sea. This was evident in the way Sri Lanka acted in the recent events that unfolded in Indian Ocean. Achieving these ambitions requires robust regional architecture, partnerships, and cooperation among coastal states. This is why the role of Indian Ocean Rim Association remains so important for countries like Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka commemorated IORA Day 2026 on the 11th of March with the official launch of the IORA Center of Excellence on Ocean Sciences and Environment.
And he is joining us virtually.
Iran's president has set conditions for ending war. However, US President Donald Trump has said the United States and Israel must finish the job in the escalating war with Iran. Meanwhile, UNICEF said that more than 1,100 children have been reported injured or killed in the violence.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said Tehran remains committed to regional peace but stressed that the conflict can only end if Iran's legitimate rights are recognized. In a post on X, Pezeshkian said he had spoken with the leaders of Russia and Pakistan and reiterated Iran's view that the conflict was ignited by the Zionist regime and the US. He said any resolution must include recognition of Iran's rights, payment of reparations, and international guarantees to prevent future attacks. US President Donald Trump said his administration is working to keep global oil supplies flowing as military operations against Iran continue, claiming extensive destruction of Iran's naval and air capabilities.
And my administration, as you know better than anybody, is also working to keep the oil flowing. It's flowing all over. We knocked out, they wanted to drop some mines. Very friendly people, mines, so boats blow up. And we knocked out as of, every hour I have to change because they knock them out so fast. I've never seen anything. Think of it. They knocked out 54 ships in 2 days. And they're real ships. In fact, I got angry at my people. I said, are they any good? Yeah, they're warships. I said, why the hell did we kill them? Why did we just capture them and use them in our Navy? They said they wouldn't have qualified for that. But I got a little upset with my people. I said, why do we have to knock them? And actually, one of my generals said, sir, it's a lot more fun doing it this way. But we knocked out 58 naval ships. We knocked out their Navy, okay? Let's put it that way. But they also knocked out the mine layers. But I'm pleased to report that earlier today, the International Energy Agency agreed to coordinate the release of a record 400 million barrels of oil from various national petroleum reserves around the world, which will substantially reduce the oil prices as we end this threat to America and this threat to the world. We don't want to leave early, do we? We got to finish the job, right? Over the past 11 days, our military has virtually destroyed Iran. It's a tough country. Their air force is gone, totally gone. That took the better part of about 3 hours. They no longer have radar. They don't have anti-aircraft equipment. They don't have anything. Their missiles are down 90%. Their drones are down 85%. We're blowing up the factories where they're made left and right. And frankly, nobody has ever seen anything like it.
Iran's parliament speaker said today that any invasion of Iran's islands will, quote-unquote, make the Persian Gulf run with the blood of invaders. It wasn't immediately clear what prompted Mohammad Bagher Kalibaf's comments, which again escalated the rhetoric surrounding the ongoing Iran war. Iran holds 3 islands it took from the United Arab Emirates before its formation in 1971. There also has been speculation that the United States could target Karg Island in the Persian Gulf, Iran's main oil terminal. The US-Israeli war on Iran has threatened Gulf ports and disrupted global trade through the Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly a fifth of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas normally passes. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have warned that any ship passing through the narrow strait will be targeted. However, Iran has continued to send large amounts of crude oil via the Strait of Hormuz to China, even as the war between US-Israel and Iran has jeopardized broader supplies through the critical waterway. Iran has sent at least 11.7 million barrels of crude oil through the Strait of Hormuz since the war began on the 28th of February, all of which were headed to China. Continued Iranian attacks have started fires around the Middle East region. Several drones have targeted Kuwait International Airport, according to the country's state news wire service citing the Public Authority for Civil Aviation. Earlier today, there was a major fire reported in Bahrain after Iran targeted oil and fuel tanks near the Bahrain International Airport. A high-rise building in Dubai has been pictured with a large hole this morning after a local government reported a drone fell on a building. Meanwhile, in Oman, fire crews are still working to contain a blaze at fuel storage tanks from yesterday's strike on the port of Salalah. Oman has now also ordered an evacuation of vessels at its oil export terminal as a precautionary measure. UNICEF warns that the escalating conflict in the Middle East has created a catastrophic situation for millions of children, with more than 1,100 reported killed or injured since the 28th of February. According to UNICEF, the casualties include 200 children reportedly killed in Iran, 91 in Lebanon, 4 in Israel and 1 in Kuwait. The organization says these numbers are expected to rise as violence intensifies and spreads across the region.
අයිවන් සතුටින් ඉන්නේ වයරින් කරලා වයරින් කිරුවේ ඉස්ලොන් පොලිකොන් යොදලා.
For your safety and the protection of the wires used in networking, electricity and AC wiring, S-Lawn Polygon cable trunking, suitable for white walls, prevent spread of fire, double lock technology. Ask for S-Lawn Polygon by name.
Find everything you need for your home, office, business and factory. Visit b2b.lk Marketplace.
Welcome back to the news. Nearly 600 kilograms of the drug ice and heroin were discovered on board the multi-day fishing trawler that was taken into Navy custody in the southern seas while it was being used to transport firearms and narcotics.
This multi-day fishing trawler was taken into the custody of Navy during a special operation conducted the day before yesterday. Another fishing trawler that had arrived to assist this vessel has also been seized by the Navy. 10 suspects have been arrested. The 48 bags containing illegal drugs that were found on board this vessel were brought to the Dikovita Fisheries Harbour. The Navy further stated that 2 T-56 assault rifles, 1 M16 rifle and 8 pistols were discovered on board the first vessel.
Today, the operations conducted by our Navy have gained international acclaim. Before we came into power, it was never possible to intercept drug and arms smuggling rings in this manner. They used to come and go freely. Previously, these individuals enjoyed political protection. Now, none of that exists.
The arrested suspects, the stock of narcotics and the weapons are to be handed over to the Police Narcotics Bureau. The Navy stated that this is the largest haul of narcotics seized so far this year.
President Anurukumara Dissanayake states that the objective of the Ceylon Electricity Board restructuring process is to ensure an efficient and continuous power supply at a fair price for the consumers. The President made these remarks during a meeting held this afternoon with representatives of the Ceylon Electricity Board Engineers Union.
A discussion was held this morning at the Presidential Secretariat between President Anurukumara Dissanayake and representatives of the Ceylon Electricity Board Engineers Union.
If the current employees of the board have certain rights, all those rights must be adopted into a company structure. We made all these changes based on the primary principle that government ownership of the energy sector must be secured. Our government's intent is simply to provide consumers with an efficient and continuous electricity supply at a fair price. We know the history, don't we? Governments have collapsed over this very issue. Politicians have been chased away because of it. This sector is that closely linked to people's lives and the economy. It is not just about a job. As a society, is there a country where your children can live in? Can they get a good education? Are there other social factors like good care and safety? I believe those social factors also need to be fulfilled to protect this profession. I ask that we strive for this together.
එකට පොරබදමු කියලා මම ඉල්ලන්නේ සැලරි ඉන්ක්‍රිමන්ට් එකක් ඉල්ලුවා ඒක නිගෝසියේෂන් එකක් ඔබතුමාලගේ පැත්තෙන් මොකක් හරි තියෙනවා නම් හොඳින් බලන්න කියන ඉල්ලුවා කියන්න අපි මේක අර ඒකෙන්
Let me be open with you. Regarding the public sector, we have already implemented a significant salary increment. For that, it will cost 110 billion in 2025, another 110 billion in 2026, and an additional 130 billion will be added for the 2027 salary increase. Now we need to see how we can manage this total of 330 billion within the 13% limit. Only after that can we think about the other allowances. That is the biggest challenge. When 330 billion hits the budget at once, we have to bring it within that 9% target, with 4% going towards capital. We have to bring it within that 9%.
සංක්‍රාන්ති සමයකන ඉන්නේ අපේ. එතකොට ඇත්තටම ඒ මිනිස්සුම තෘප්තිමත් කරන්න මොකක් හරි කරන්න ඕනි. එතකොට ඒ මිනිස්සු මේකට උද්‍යෝගීව එකතු වෙනවා. ඒ ගැන පොඩ්ඩක් සලකා බලමු. මොකද ඇත්තටම මේ අපේ 21000 සතුටෙන් යන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට මිනිස්සු මේකට එකතු වෙලා වැඩ කරනවා.
News First with the people.
Former Chief Executive Officer of Sri Lankan Airlines, Kapila Chandrasena, has been arrested.
Former Sri Lankan Airlines CEO Kapila Chandrasena was arrested today upon arriving at the Bribery Commission to provide a statement.
Why was Kapila Chandrasena arrested? What is this incident?
Investigations are underway regarding a corrupt transaction involving the planned purchase of 10 Airbus aircraft for Sri Lankan Airlines during the 2012 to 2013 period. The investigation into this transaction is being conducted in coordination with the Criminal Investigation Department. During the 2012 to 2013 period, a proposal was submitted for the removal of 13 aircraft from Sri Lankan Airlines and replace them with 14 brand new aircraft. A contract was signed with the French Airbus company to purchase 6 A330 aircraft and 4 A350 aircraft among those.
Who uncovered the fraud in this transaction?
Information regarding a serious fraud in this deal was revealed in January 2020. This came to light following the disclosure of details from an investigation conducted by the Serious Fraud Office or SFO of the United Kingdom. Investigations revealed that the French Airbus company had promised to pay a bribe of $16.84 million for the deal to purchase 10 Airbus aircraft.
Was it revealed that bribes were paid?
Yes. The investigation conducted by the British Serious Fraud Office revealed that $2 million of this money had been credited to an account in Brunei belonging to a company owned by the wife of the then CEO of Sri Lankan Airlines, Kapila Chandrasena. According to an investigative information, the funds received by the Brunei-based company in his wife's name were transferred by Kapila Chandrasena on several occasions through a Singaporean account to his own account in Australia. Further investigations have revealed that money from Singapore had also been transferred to 2 accounts within Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, Shamindra Rajapaksa, the son of former Speaker Chama Rajapaksa, has been named as a third suspect in this case. This follows a disclosure that a sum of $160,000 was credited to a bank account belonging to him in 2013.
4 individuals attached to the Department of Motor Traffic, including a serving official and 3 former officers, have been remanded until the 20th of March over multiple allegations relating to fraudulent vehicle registrations. They were arrested by officials of the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption and were produced before Colombo Chief Magistrate Asanga S. Botaragama this afternoon, after which the remand orders were issued. Among those arrested is an investigations and development assistant attached to the development division of the Motor Traffic Department. She is accused of knowingly accepting a forged document in connection with a request to change the color of a motor vehicle and issuing a window number accordingly. A former deputy commissioner of the department is also among the suspects. He is charged with approving a certification for a weight certificate request form submitted with forged documents relating to a motor vehicle. A former assistant director of the department's Information and Communication Technology Division was taken into custody over allegations of registering 4 vehicles that had been imported without customs clearance. The Bribery Commission said a former departmental clerk was also arrested for entering fake information into the Motor Traffic Department's computer system and authorizing an unlawful registration through an irregular assignment process. The Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption has written to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka seeking confirmation on whether former Central Bank Governor Ajith Nivard Cabral has paid more than 1,840 million rupees as ordered in connection with the Greek bond case. The request was made through a letter issued by the Commission's Director General Ranga Dissanayake. The Commission stated that if the payment has not been made, steps will be taken to file indictments before the High Court under the provisions of the law. The case was filed by the Bribery Commission against a former Central Bank Governor Ajith Nivard Cabral, former Deputy Governor Dharmasena Dheerasinghe and Assistant Governors Don Vasantha Ananda Silva and M.A. Karunaratne. They were accused of causing a loss of exceeding 1,840 million rupees to the government by knowingly purchasing Greek government bonds during a period when Greece was experiencing a severe economic crisis. On the 10th of December last year, the Colombo High Court ordered the conditional release of former Governor Cabral and the unconditional release of the remaining 3 accused. Under the conditions imposed on Cabral, the loss of over 1,840 million rupees incurred through the transaction must be recovered by the central bank within 3 months, which lapsed on the 10th of March.
අයිවන් සතුටින් ඉන්නේ වයරින් කරලා වයරින් කිරුවේ ඉස්ලොන් පොලිකොන් යොදලා.
For your safety and the protection of the wires used in networking, electricity and AC wiring, S-Lawn Polygon cable trunking, suitable for white walls, prevent spread of fire, double lock technology. Ask for S-Lawn Polygon by name.
And welcome back to the news. The Netherlands says it is impressed by Sri Lanka's economic recovery following the 2022 economic collapse and is ready to partner with the country in its next phase of development. This was communicated by the Dutch envoy to Colombo.
What do you think about that? How Netherlands help to Sri Lankan government?
Well, we are in a constant dialogue, of course, with Sri Lanka. We are really impressed by the results of the Sri Lankan economy after the meltdown in 2022. You are performing above the expectations of IMF, so we have a lot of trust in the further development, and we would like to be a partner, the Netherlands but also Europe. We would like to be a partner in the further development, and we really believe that this is possible, also with the policies of the government of opening up the country to foreign investment and more foreign technology. But I personally believe also that one of the biggest drivers will be to liberate the small and medium-sized enterprises in this country, because that is where the real dynamics will come from.
Sri Lanka has been recognized among the first to launch a large-scale Kunming Biodiversity Action Project.
Sri Lanka has been endorsed for a project under the Kunming Biodiversity Fund, placing the country among the first worldwide to advance large-scale implementation of the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. The endorsement marks a major step in translating global biodiversity commitments into coordinated national action. The project proposal was formally signed at the Ministry of Environment by K.R. Uduwavala, Secretary of the Ministry of Environment, and Vimalendra Sharan, the FAO representative for Sri Lanka and the Maldives. The initiative is entirely homegrown, developed through close collaboration between the ministry and national experts to ensure that Sri Lanka's commitments align with national priorities and on-the-ground realities. Invasive alien species have emerged as an escalating threat to the country's biodiversity, ecosystems, agriculture and livelihoods. The KBF-supported project directly targets this challenge, shifting Sri Lanka from fragmented project-based responses toward a unified, system-wide national biosecurity framework. The initiative aims to institutionalize prevention, early detection, rapid response and long-term management of invasive species across the island.
The second international conference on tropical dermatology, which will continue until the 14th March, commenced in Colombo yesterday.
The second international conference on tropical dermatology was inaugurated in Colombo yesterday. The International Conference on Tropical Dermatology focuses primarily on tropical dermatoses with the aim of promoting knowledge sharing among dermatologists globally while creating new opportunities for research, innovative therapeutics and improved patient care.
There is something particularly appropriate about holding this meeting in Sri Lanka. This is a country known for its strong public health system, its commitment to universal access to care, its excellence in medical education, and its ability to achieve remarkable health outcomes with limited resources. Those of us who come from larger and wealthier systems look at this with real respect. Sri Lanka has also given the world one of the oldest traditions of organised medical care. In Minhintale and Anuradhapura, where treatment was offered not as a privilege, but as a responsibility to society. That philosophy sits at the very heart of global health dermatology today.
Organized by the Sri Lanka College of Dermatology and Aesthetic Medicine and German Dermatological Society, the conference will continue until the 14th of March.
Considering the excellent dermatology training program Sri Lanka has and the wide variety of tropical dermatosis one sees in this country, Sri Lanka is an ideal location to host this international meeting. It is exciting to see that there are many world experts on tropical dermatology speaking at this conference. It is heartening to see many delegates from the German Dermatological Society as well, highlighting our long-standing friendship with DDG. I'm fortunate that I had the opportunity to be actively involved in the first International Tropical Dermatology Conference held in 2016. It was a great success. This time, we have got even a greater representation of the world with delegates coming from many countries despite the war in the Middle East.
During the event, specialists and researchers are expected to exchange insights, present new findings, and explore strategies to strengthen dermatological care in tropical countries.
The case regarding the Chemmani grave in Jaffna was taken up at the Jaffna Magistrates Court today.
The Jaffna Chemmani Grave case was taken up for hearing today before Jaffna Magistrate S. Lenin Kumar. During the proceedings, the resumption of excavation work was discussed. The magistrate issued an order to the Nallur Pradeshya Sabha to clean the relevant areas twice a week under the supervision of the judicial medical officer. The magistrate also directed the Nallur Pradeshya Sabha to remove the temporary sheds and reconstruct stronger structures to mitigate damages that could be caused by inclement weather. Meanwhile, a team including the magistrate conducted a field visit today to examine the site for the next phase of excavations.
An order was issued to inspect the site, and they visited the site this evening. After monitoring the water levels, the court ordered for the water to be drained on the 28th of March. The current date set for the resumption of excavations is April 20th.
In early February 2025, human remains were recovered while digging pits for development work at the cemetery in the Chemmani area. Following this, excavation work commenced on the 15th of May in the area where the remains were found. On the 25th of June last year, a team including United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk personally visited and inspected the site. The second phase of the Chemmani grave excavation resumed on the 26th June 2025 and continued until the 10th of July, during which 37 human remains were recovered. Subsequently, a continuation of the second phase was carried out from the 21st of July to the 6th of August, unearthing 141 human remains. Following that, excavation work was conducted from the 25th of August to the 6th of September, where 240 human remains were identified and 239 were fully excavated.
The Equality Initiative of Sri Lanka Law College celebrated Women's Day in Colombo.
Grace and Grit 2026 6th, the official Women's Day celebration organised by the Equality Initiative of Sri Lanka Law College was held today. A panel discussion focusing on women empowerment featuring Deputy Minister of Mass Media and Attorney at Law Dr. Kaushalya Ratna, first female mayor of Colombo Rosie Senanayake, former Deputy Solicitor General, President's Counsel Dirukshi Dayas Wickramasinghe, and motivational speaker Jayanthi Kurutumpala was held today.
One thing I want to highlight before I start, when you ask about my journey, I think we always talk about our challenges. Of course, we as women, we have different challenges, but also we need to acknowledge our privileges as well. In some way or the other, all four of us had opportunities to go out and see the world, have education, meet people, but there are a lot of other women who are out there who never had the chance to go even out from their village. I never ever wanted to be a politician in my life, but somehow, and Madam Rose, I also think you never wanted to be a politician in your career. So this is how the life goes, right? So what I want to say is that different places, different opportunities made us stronger.
The most important thing that I noticed is not just the female law students. I see a lot of males in this forum, because if we are to achieve gender equality and equity, we cannot do it alone. We need the male participation and their thoughts and their inputs and their full support.
The first day of the 147th Battle of the Blues, the annual big match between Royal College Colombo and St. Thomas's College Mount Lavinia was held in Colombo today. At the end of day's play, St. Thomas's College Mount Lavinia posted a total of 203 runs for the loss of 4 wickets.
The Battle of the Blues annual big match encounter, which is the oldest big match in the history of school cricket tournaments in Sri Lanka, began in the year 1879. The winners of the match are awarded the D.S. Senanayake Memorial Shield. The match is being held at the SSC grounds in Colombo. The Royal College team is led by Rehan Piris, while Avinash Fernando captains St. Thomas's College. Having won the toss, Royal College Colombo elected to field first. Accordingly, St. Thomas's innings was opened by Jade Namaravira alongside captain Avinash Fernando. Jade Namaravira scored 52 runs while Avinash Fernando contributed 50 runs. Ravindu Kodituaku was dismissed for 12 runs. The first 3 wickets of St. Thomas's College fell for 154 runs. The Maharaja Media Network is the official electronic media partner of the 147th Battle of the Blues.
And that's a wrap of your news for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.